Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Joey of Rockledge.
Hello.
We have a repeat guest for you this week, but also a first-timer. How do I mean? Well, Chris Wink has been a guest on this show before, so this is a return trip for him. But he has never been submitted to a grilling by our investigative journalist, Joey of Rockledge. The first time he came, we asked him all the easy questions.
Yeah,
this time,
just softballs.
This
softballs.
time we're getting to the bottom of everything.
Yeah.
As a reminder, Chris is the co-founder of Blue Man Group, one of the most legendary performance art creations of our time. But one huge triumph wasn't enough for the man. More recently, he created Wink World, Portals into the Infinite, which he describes as a psychedelic art house meets carnival fun house. Located in Area 15 in Las Vegas, Wink World consists of 6 infinity rooms, each containing a distinct combination of light, color, sound, and motion. We have been. It is awesome. If you're ever in Vegas, do yourself a favor and go. He's currently working on a second Wink World at Mall of America with the help of his longtime partner in crime, Alex Aliume. We want to talk to him about that, but also about the good stuff, how to stay inspired, how to reconnect to the source, how to cultivate a sense of wonder and joy, to appreciate the mystery of existence, and how to just create all the crazy shit that he creates. So we're going to talk about everything. Welcome to the show, Chris. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
So, Chris, I'm going to ask you very, very serious and very tough questions.
Yeah.
What tickles you the most right now? Give me 2 things. What lights your soul up?
Yeah. Well, I really get tickled by experiencing kind of artistic, aesthetic things. I just took my son to a musical, and I'm going to 2 more this week. Some of them are better than others, but I just love the human soul soaring out of people's bodies and collaborating, intermingling, and I get tickled by that. I'm also when I go see work, there's a part of me that'll be a tough customer, and I'll be kind of comparing notes and how it could have been better. But at the same time, there's another part of me that doesn't fight it and really tries to get that soul filling, joyful love out of things. And so I'm always looking for things, but I don't have an idea of art, capital A. It's things, it's kind of like when you're a Burning Man, there might be like a giant commissioned art piece and a crazy person on a bike, and they're both valid, right? They're both joy inducing experiential things. And so I've always been interested in that high low, and I don't really get caught up in the high part. I like the low part. And I love that the genre I'm in now isn't really theater. It's carnival. It's much more, down. Who goes to carnival? What's the demographic? Everybody. That's not true in theater. It's not true with museums, so I get tickled by experiences like that. But yeah, I also get tickled. And, I'm a supporter of the psychedelic renaissance, and I'm not keeping that a secret. My experiences that I create do not require any psychedelics, nor are they a promotion of psychedelics. We're not trying to convert someone or your kids. These are family experiences. But my process has certainly been influenced and enhanced, in my opinion, and focused by psychedelics. And I think that there's a moment that we're in where our culture is reconsidering their possible value and destigmatizing them and kind of categorizing them. And I'm absolutely a part of that, and that's another part that tickles me.
So we've talked about this before, and you said, you're not creating great art in the middle of a trip. What you are doing is having that experience and having it be expansive somehow, and having that help you create art.
Yeah. No, in fact, that's a really important point. Way back in my Blue Man days, early on, we did an experiment where we did mushrooms, and we were in our lab, and we had some slime and some black lights, and we had this. We came up with some ideas that we were pretty convinced were bordering on genius. And then the next day we woke up and we were like, oh man, we thought we were going to go over the audience and just wiggle this like slime over their heads, and they were going to have their minds blown. The problem was if they weren't on the exact amount of mushrooms with the exact music we were listening to, they would have just looked at us like we were crazy. So pretty early on, I decided that writing material while in these altered states wasn't the way to go. But of course, the things that I've had experiences with in some of these, especially some of the more thoughtful ones that are guided and not so much just like a party, right? Or kind of ceremonial. Some of the imagery I've seen and some of the ideas and feelings that come to me have been very helpful. But when you're creating work for the real world, you have to kind of be in the real world. I think of it sometimes as like I like the metaphor of Alice, the second one, through the looking glass, right? That looking glass, opposed to the rabbit hole, which is also a good metaphor for things. But that looking glass, it's like part of my job is to reach in there, even lean in there, go in there, maybe even put one foot in there. But I've got to grab stuff and bring it back to the real world. I can't go in there, create in there, and also you really do have to bring it back. And the people that go all the way in and run, sometimes they don't make it back. And so our job is to build stuff for the real world, for people that of all types, right? I want everybody. I don't want a political or a demographic or any kind of, to be a filter for people. So we have to bring back stuff that inspires wonder. And, you have to be very coherent and well-rested and of sound, focused mind to actually create something in the real world.
So what gives you, like right now, like in your life, how do you sort of find the balance between grounding yourself and also diving through the mirror and grabbing stuff and, pulling it back into the real world? What brings you to your center? Like, how do you balance everything?
That's great. I'm in a phase now where it's more of an execution mode. And so I'm finding that I'm not doing any medicines right now. And the regularity and repetition of sort of more like the things like meditation and self-care and exercise and movement and sleep and exercise and good food and kind of like this kind of, I feel like that is the routine but in a calm way. It's funny. I feel like we need a bigger word, right? Psychedelics is this thing. But meditation, yoga, I'm not good at yoga, but these practices, spiritual things, they're all helping us get to this thing up here, which hasn't been named, although you could call it a tickle, right? It's not any one of those avenues doesn't have a patent on getting you there, right? And so
I have the word. It's the truth.
What is
the truth?
Okay, that's a good one. The truth, yeah, is something that's a good one. I source truth, something like that. And so there's times for real deep going in, and there's times for kind of real world execution. But that's why I like Wink World as a thing. I mean, I'm not so. I like to think I'm not so egotistical that I'm just like trying to throw my name around. I've always liked the idea of one eye open and one eye closed, the metaphor of that. first of all, yeah, of course, the current meaning, yeah, wink, I'm being light, I'm being playful, I'm just kidding, whatever. I like that because, that's part of me for sure. I'm a trickster, and Blue Man is like, we're just kidding, right? But there's another resonance to it, I think, and we're talking about it right now, which is, I'm always working in this, the two sides of the mirror. So one eye is looking out at the real world, and, what we have to do here, and the other eye is looking in at the world within, the world of imagination, of dreams, of maybe even other things that are in there that are connected to other things beyond. And that's very mysterious, and there aren't any rules, and gravity's different, and physics is all around. And so I'm neither a surrealist nor a realist. I put the two together.
So, but you might call it surreal to put together a psychedelic funhouse in Saudi Arabia.
Oof, that was surreal. That was, I don't know what, it was kind of like a fever dream. No,
listeners, Chris put together a version of Wink World.
Yeah, it was a pop up, and the reason I just said fever dreams is it was just hard to do it in such a short amount of time, so far away, and different supply chain challenges and all that stuff. But it was fascinating and really rewarding to see people from a very different cultural background going through and kind of connecting to this stuff. And that I really like working on this layer that's below politics, nation, religion. It's like when it comes to seeing a glowing, spinning, I had some great work by my dear friend, but also one of my favorite artists, Max Steiner. Of course, we had Alex Aliume, Brendan Burke. But seeing his spinning acrylic sculptures in an infinity, triangle, and people just sort of experiencing that and seeing their faces light up, it was a wonderful experience.
It's the unity. You're finding the unity in the multiplicity, right? You're bringing everyone together.
And thank you for, listen, the thing that I'm trying to express with my work that I think is psychedelic, it isn't that I'm talking about the concepts that psychedelic, the tropes and the themes that run through the psychedelic and Renaissance, or that run through people that just have these experiences. When I was growing up, psychedelic meant bright colors, Peter Max, Zap comics. And so to me, that's what that meant, psychedelic. Oh, a black light, poster section in the back of a head shop. That's psychedelic. I didn't know that there was a medicine component. Maybe I'd heard, but I'm talking when I'm really young. And but to me, it was a visual component. But now that word is expanded for me as an artist when I say it, psychedelic as an aesthetic, not as something referring to substances. It means things like connectivity, ego dissolution. There's a mystery, perhaps. And one that I think you guys will like, good old-fashioned love, right? Those are the components that if you're and wonder. And so the reason I jumped on this sort of infinity mirror thing, Yayoi Kusama's work was so inspiring, but I thought, wow, it's just the beginning. Like these little rooms, and I've got, I started with my bathroom here.
Yep.
And this creates these patterns. In this case, it's a little chaotic, but these patterns that can, to me, invoke a sense of connectedness. Like, first, there's a couple of orange things up there. There's a toilet down there. There's this thing here. But when you repeat them like that, you start to feel like you're in the middle of a crystal of some kind. And I can turn this off, I guess. And we're all connected in this bathroom house. Like, it isn't just a special effect. I feel like it evokes that sense of unity. That's the word I think you use. And in my experience with psychedelics, and I think I hear this so many times with other people, you can't escape this. Look at my spinning thing up there. the roadkill of an, at one time that was something. But anyway, you can't escape these feelings of we lose sight, and this is why I love the Tickle, the way you describe Tickle stuff, Jeff, so much, is that as we get smarter and grow up and become more acculturated, we lose so much of what was natural as a kid. I think we're absolutely connected, or at least potentially connected, and then either through the way we're treated by our family or our schools, or we create this illusion of separateness, and it's reinforced everywhere. And it's a complete illusion. The reality is connection. And so I think one of the things that art does, all different types of art, dance, music, they reconnect us with that connection. And nothing's more natural. That's why it's just, oh, okay. Yeah. And then we have this, you're at a concert, and why don't I do this more often? And then we forget again. We go back to work and we forget. But I think that it isn't just connecting us to the idea of connection, right? There's the other tropes, right? You connected to source, connected to love, connected to connection. And then the ego part that's the part that is the separate part. It's like, oh, it's about me and I've got my problems. And then when you have these experiences with or without medicine in nature or in art, where you go, oh my God, look at all this and look at that. And look at the fractal shapes on that tree and how the trees themselves, and then you look at these types of things and you go like, look at all the sparkles. And then you just sort of feel like, oh, I remember now,
It takes you out of your head. It gets you out of all of it, right? Where it's like you drop your identity for a split second and you're just being, right? And just observing.
Such a relief. It's such a relief to get out of your personality for a second. It's like, oh, thank God. Although in your case, Joey, I'm sure it's really nice to be in your personality. If I was you, I don't think I need to leave as much. For me, it's like, oh God.
It's because I know it's not me.
When all this stuff went down with me around Tickled, it was like I suddenly felt like someone had taken off this gigantic burden that I didn't even know I was carrying. And it turns out it was just me. Right?
Yeah, the burden of our personas,
Right. And suddenly it's like, what?
And I'm for Mall of America, I just got a call from them like, hey, we want to do some press. Can we have a meeting? So I have a meeting next week, and it's like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try to sell the idea of the space with my persona, And so the best you can do is like a jujitsu move. I'm like, all right, I'll go in and I'll be whatever, Blue Man co-founder and Chris Wink, but I'll try to see if I can, because it's just like, I'll see if I can flip it somehow, but it's not always easy because they'll ask questions that are kind of like, they'll speak into my persona, and I'll try to see if I can. And this is a great grounding, because really the real payoff when you make these experiences is seeing people's faces when they come out, and it registering as not just having been an amusement for a second, but it was somehow moving on some level. And that's why the artists I work with work so hard and obsessively. You talk about Alex Aliume, he's just working crazy, but it's not like he's like a workaholic, and it's not like it's like, it's coming from a different place, right? He's coming from this commitment to actually having an impact on people, and he's seen that impact. And it isn't just like, all right, I'll make a painting and I'll sell it and it'll go away. That's why I think for him, it makes a lot of sense that he doesn't just sell them, that he keeps them so that people can come and see them, or they can come here. Like the one behind me on the left, the iris there is of course an Aliume.
It's amazing.
And, but that's why we do it. It's like, so that we can just it isn't just a personal thing. Like, I'll just take it and I think what you want. We're not that. It's not that kind of capital A art. We're trying to give people an experience. If we don't give them an experience, we kind of feel like we didn't. That's what I love about vaudeville, right? If they didn't do a good job, people would throw tomatoes at them, And when I first started in performance art, there was this sort of idea of like, you can't care about the audience because that's pandering or that's selling out or something. And I'm like, okay, I respect that, and I know certain artists that are like that, and there should be a place for that. But that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in like having stuff that connects with people, and if it doesn't connect, then I want to have a discussion about why and see what we can do to fix it.
All right, so let's talk about, you took us in the bathroom there. One of the coolest things about your own creations, and who's your guy again that builds all your stuff?
Junior.
So Junior is both the sung and unsung hero. Not everyone knows who Junior is. He's
Junior Megan and his son Marty also, yeah.
He's the technician. So your stuff, one of the coolest things about your own artistic creations is it seems like so much of it is stuff that is sold under another use, right?
Yeah.
Or like a household item that you turned into something else. And that to me, when you're talking about psychedelics, right? One of the things about psychedelics is sort of altering your point of view, right? Giving you a window into things that's different from your normal window. So you clearly have a capacity for that. What is your, like, if you can even describe it, like how do you find that the plastic spoon should be spinning on a vibrating slinky or whatever it is? Where do these things come to you?
Well, it all starts with having not had any artistic talent. And I'm not saying that it was false modesty. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know how to draw. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't know, I'm not a sculptor. And others noticed that and pushed me away in my education from, you're not an artist. And then when I got to be, in my early 20s, it's like, but I want to be an artist, but I can't do anything. So and I think that's also important to know to be realistic about your what you have and you don't have. I was a good drummer, and I'd done a little bit of comedy, and I learned about art through art history, but I was like watching others do it. I'm like, how could I do it? And then when I sort of started tiptoeing into like performance art, and then started to see and learn more about people that had, and Dadaists and all, that had sort of transformed things and taken everyday items. I was like, I think that's what I can start to play with. So, I mean, Blue Man itself was a mashup of different mediums that were all just selfishly things I was interested in, right? Like, art and science and design and comedy and music and drumming and catching stuff in your mouth. Like, I just said, all right, this is what I got. and so let's just put it together. My partners, as well. But so my process now is literally, the best word for it is just play. I'll take a thing. I'll say, all right, here's a zip tie, and here's this is a thing that you can buy. But so is that going to be a good one? Or is that, and these are just things I have around. Like these are some cubes, and could I make a mohawk out of them? Or, and so there's a little bit of like waste, because it's like, I'm not sure if there's anything here or not, but like, these are just the things that came in today. And then I've got some, I've got this safety band, but if you cut it, and you pull out the thing, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you can, I don't know, is it going to be a thing? I don't know what's going to happen. So so it's hit or miss, but my favorite thing is like the plumbing pipes in Blue Man that became an instrument, or like, spoons become, a headpiece. I do like, or like these toy fish become a mandala, and, so I motorize it. I hired someone to do the dots. We put it on a sprocket. It's not like that's a complete transformation necessarily, but here's some trolls, and we're going to make it spin and stuff. But like, I wouldn't say I've completely transformed them from one thing to another, but sort of. And this is a lawn fan, but we motorized it. And then if you put it in a infinity room, then I'll turn the light down a little bit here. Then you can just look down into the vortex of Mother Nature's vagina. I'm sorry, I just decided that now. You can cut that out if it's inappropriate. I've never called it that before. I was trying it out. It's part of my process.
It's play.
It's hit or miss. I'm not sure it really landed. So I'll have to think about that. And sometimes I'll just get something that this was you remember this was destined for like a sushi restaurant in Queens, but no one wanted it. And so it was sitting and it was about to get thrown out. And then I added some mirrors in front and back so that but these beautiful bubbles that are in the shape of jellyfish needed to be saved. But I can't take too much credit, but I modded it. So in that case, it's just like a little mod. But that's my favorite thing, is to sort of, find ways of, well, another example is a plasma ball that you would see in a science store on your way out. Just that little lightning plasma ball. One of them, it's kind of cheesy, but 4,000 of them is pretty cool. Sometimes, these boxes are all filled with Slinkies. I had custom ordered from China, and I've got thousands of Slinkies here that are like super bright, and then these are really big. They're kind of, and then I've got a bunch of aquarium items. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these yet, but look at that movement. Look at the movement. And then, I took these birdies and made a headpiece out of it, and it's still, and then these are aquarium plants that are now a headpiece. It's a little heavy, this is, I'm trying to, I don't know what it is. Anyway, so that's just part of the process. It's just playing around. I've got the best job in the world, but I have to say it's hit or miss. There's a lot of miss, and it's important to admit it when it's a miss.
Chris. So you give yourself, I don't know if you have to give yourself permission, but you play. And I think that's something most people, like kids do it, right? But most of us as adults, we don't turn it loose like that.
Well, it is fun. And I will say too, that prior to, I would say 5 years ago, or 7 years ago, when I started to go back to Burning Man, and then I kind of rediscovered the psychedelic element. I think I'd gotten off my path as an artist. There I was at Blue Man. Wow, isn't this amazing? And the play had gone away. I was actually doing it very professionally, and there was a kind of a stress of like, how do we keep this going? And it was more about marketing than just and that's one of the main reasons why I needed to get away from there, because I'd really lost my way, even in that circumstance, even that wonderful playground, if you can imagine it. I managed.
You were the serious guy at Blue Man Group.
Yeah, I was the one. I was always burdened and worried about how it was going. Other people were having fun, but I lost that sense of fun, and we certainly had a little fun when we were doing the Blue School and figuring out like the wonder rooms and all that kind of stuff. But at Blue Man, I just it was really great to hand it over to people that you guys, you got this, you go with it, and just get out and start over and just start playing it in my bathroom. And so I think, and then I had also tried to do some other projects that others had recommended. Like, oh, Chris, you'd be good at this thing here. But it didn't have like the play involved in it. Like I was involved in a couple of theatrical production. We were trying to do some things. I was trying to do a jukebox musical, if you remember. And I didn't, I don't think I wasn't trapping into my truth. And so it didn't come out good. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. It wasn't really me, and I wasn't really playing. I was like, okay, how does this work? Okay, I did Blue Man, so I must know how this works. You know what I mean? But when I did Blue Man, I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't act like I knew anything. The assumption was we knew nothing, and there was no medium, and there wasn't even a way of an aspiration of sort of what success looks like. It was just, let's do this, let's play around, and let's just see where it goes. And that's what I needed to get back to. I was in these other things. Well, we're going to do this Broadway show, and it's going to be done. And it's like, I get my whole body kind of tenses up just saying those words, And so I went back to my bathroom and started playing. And so even though we're kind of doing another one in Mall of America, and that's an interesting experiment to see if we can go like kind of to the heartland, not so much in a, Area 15 where in Vegas is a kind of Burning Man alternative space. It's kind of exactly what you would expect to go to find Wink World and Meow Wolf and a couple other like-minded things. It's Blacklight and Luminate. You guys have been there. So now we're going to Mall of America, where like the most outrageous thing that they have is Blacklight putt golf. That's the farthest out that they're swinging right now in that space. And I really can't wait to see how the experiment goes. I have a feeling, I have a hope that they're going to really, they're going to connect with it and they're going to like it. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Middle America goes to the carnival for sure.
They go to carnival. It's just reinventing the carnival, and especially as the malls, shift away from stores, right? Because that's not happening anymore. And the Mall of America lucked out. Like that wasn't their model from the beginning. They're basically an amusement park with a couple of stores around the outside, places to eat. And so it's a carnival space. I'm actually excited. I think it might be the perfect space, because I've looked all over New York and I couldn't find a space. I couldn't find a carnival space in New York. Like Soho's not a carnival space. NoHo's not a carnival space. Where's the carnival space? Where's the space where you can leave one experience and go to another one right away? There was a great space on Broadway and whatever. And NoHo, like we were going to spit people out, and they're going to be next to a shoe store, overpriced shoe store. And like, how do you plan a day around that? So, like today, I'm thinking we're going to get some psychedelic art and shoes, overpriced, small batch, shoes that are collectibles, and some experiential psychedelic art. It's too much. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm babbling.
We just got to take a trip around your room. It was amazing. We need to get you fitted with like a little camera or something.
I kind of didn't realize that it was going to be like a Zoom, so I didn't prep the space very well. I'm not sure I would have. Maybe it's better this way. It just that's
right.
Had the play aspect.
Design something like that. Yeah, it was perfect. All right, so we're out of time.
Wow.
Right? It goes quickly.
Well, I will say one other thing. I've been inspired by a lot of things. I've been inspired by psychedelics. I'm inspired by art. But the Tickle is one of my big inspirations. I go back to the way you've worded that and the simplicity of the concepts. And as one who doesn't have a lot of words for these things, and also I bristled since my father was a minister, really. I bristle from words that sound too religious or this and that. And I really appreciate the playful but smart and simple way that you use language to give access for people like me who have allergies to certain just packaging of ideas, if you know what I'm saying. And so I would say you're a big influence in my to answer the original question, what tickles me is you guys tickle me.
Ditto.
Yeah, back
it's
at
a tickle
you.
circle.
It's
tickle circle, man. That's what this is.
Tickle chain.
I'm going to go with that. That's not a vagina. It's a tickle circle. I think we end on that, right?
Helping the world get PG again. That's what we're here for.
It's the tickle vortex, right?
How to tickle yourself. How to tickle yourself is not about what people think it's about. We're talking about PG stuff.
That's right.
Thank you, Chris Wink, for all the inspiration, all the entertainment, all the friendship, all the laughs, all the everything. You're the best. We love you.
We love you.
We love you guys.
Bye.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
So that's Chris Wink for you, folks. One of the wildest, but also sweetest, kindest, funniest, nicest guys we've ever met. He's one of our best friends.
He just wants everyone to be happy, and sort of he just is like a fire hose of joy and play. Like I have never met anyone with that much energy. It's amazing.
Right. He's like a walking drum set. Actually, he does perform as a walking drum set. So here's something for you. This is, I was thinking about this earlier. I was going to read it, but I figured I'd wait. He talked about getting off his own path. And Swami Vivekananda said, when realization comes, these things drop away. And he's talking about arguments and everything. And he says, those that have realized truth do not require logic and all other gymnastics of the intellect to make them understand the truth. It is to them the life of their lives, concretized, made more than tangible. It is, as the sages of Vedanta say, even as a fruit in your hand. You can stand up and say it is here. What that means is it's obvious what we should do.
Right.
Right. What is in our nature. And we only get into trouble when we lose sight of that, or we ignore it, or we drown it out, and we do something which is against our nature. When you are trying to get close to the self, the true self, it will be as obvious as a fruit in your hand. And for him, you can tell that's what happened. He got back to being Chris Wink.
Yeah. I think that happens to a lot of artists when they try and turn their art into business, right? There's sort of a clamping down and they lose sight of the tickle. And that tickle really does guide you. Like all you have to do is like just take a minute, and does it tickle or does it not? Does it light your soul up or does it not? And if you're on the right path. And the minute you take that step towards the thing that lights you up, you feel it everywhere. Your whole body tickles.
So on which note, here's another piece of Vivekananda where he doesn't actually say the word tickle, but I know he meant it. He said, never mind these failures, these little backslidings. Hold the ideal 1,000 times, and if you fail 1,000 times, make the attempt once more. The ideal of man is to see God in everything. But if you cannot see him in everything, see him in one thing, in that thing which you like best, and then see him in another. So on you can go. There is infinite life before the soul. Take your time and you will achieve your end. So he's talking about the tickle. And it's apropos that we're talking to a man of the Mr. Infinity, our friend Chris Wink, who's basically playing with notions of infinity in all his art, right? And see him in one thing, in that thing which you like best. To me, and I talk about this in Tickle, this is the point of focus and awareness. You want to focus on what brings you joy in your existence and hang on to it. All the other stuff is a distraction. All the other stuff doesn't matter. We are here to experience joy.
You want to cultivate a sense of wonder, right? And then the way you move through the world is with that feeling and that openness that you have when you're experiencing wonder. Because once you start paying attention, like what you're talking about, paying attention to the tickle of existence, it's that sense of wonder opens you up to like your best life, your best duffness, your best joeyness, your best Christmas.
And the other way to think about it is just to pay attention to the miracle. It's all a miracle. And you're a miracle. You're living in a miracle. Everything you can see is a miracle. And if you keep focused on that and don't drift too far from the miracle, you have found the secret. And, it's, if there's a bunch of secrets, Chris Wink certainly seems to have found out one because, the energy is right. Where do we get energy from? Right. We get it from, like you said, rest, good eating, taking care of yourself, but enthusiasm, right? Where does that come from? Listeners of this program will know back in season 1 or 2, we pointed out that enthusiasm means God within you.
To be in God. Mm-hmm.
Right. You are enthused. So on that note, I think we can close this out with not with an Aurobindo Jogi. This is with a Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's called the Ultimate. Okay. It's from a book called The Ultimate Medicine. And this is one of the ways that I have learned and in recent years to continue to cultivate a sense of wonder. And it's the following. Keep open to that which you don't know, right? And for one reason, obviously, you don't know what you don't know. So if you close that whole door, you're closing off infinite possibilities. But also, it's when we clutch to certainty. When you think that you have got something certain, you're wrong. You're always wrong. So here's what he says, and it's a mind bender. So I'm going to read it slowly. You think that you don't know. That is correct. And whatever you think you know, that is not correct. Whatever you understand is not correct. And whatever you do not understand is correct. And here's why, he says. The former, whatever you think you understand, has a beginning and an end. Whatever you do not understand has no beginning and so no end. Here's my interpretation of that. What the yogis talk about a lot is that the real is eternal. That which is unreal comes and goes, right? If something can be here and be gone, it wasn't really real, right? It was a passing appearance. So when you think you know something, when you think you have understood something, you have that understanding starts somewhere. And it also could change. You might learn something new and your understanding changes, right? So making your original understanding moot. Right. So the things that we think we understand start somewhere and generally end somewhere when you learn something else and you come across something else. It's the things that you don't understand, right? They predate all your understanding. And also, there is no end to the things that you don't know. There is no end to them. So, keep your mind open because that which you don't understand is the truth. It's out there waiting for you. All you got to do is go look for it. You might find it in a spinning wheel vagina. No, what is it? A spinning
No, it's
tickle.
a tickle circle. It's a tickle circle.
A tickle circle. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back in a week.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your host, Duff McDonald, and me, Joey of Rockledge. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio. Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music, was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. This podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Oscar Desiderio. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck Labella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com. That's STORIC media.com.